Ontario Premier Doug Ford and his progressive conservative government have dangled the prospect of allowing the private sector into the business of selling recreational pot at retail in the province. The Ford plan would upend the previous Liberal government scheme to monopolize the sale of recreational cannabis under a government-controlled subsidiary called the Ontario Cannabis Store. While OCS is expected to have only 4 retail locations up and running when bud becomes legal on October 17th, some private sector analysts believe that as many as 15 private stores could be up and running for opening day. Many experts agree it would be a challenge to pass legislation, create a regulatory and licensing framework, and vet potential retailers all by mid-October. However, the benefits would be enormous, as private ownership would mean more recreational cannabis outlets, a greater selection of product, and depending on regulation, reduced prices through competition. If Premier Ford decides to pull the trigger on private ownership, the announcement would have to come soon. Many stakeholders in the OCS process would be impacted, and one of those is Shopify, a Canadian-founded technology company based in Ottawa that provides a world-leading e-commerce platform which hosts online shopping and payment services for some of the largest brands in the world. The former Wynne government tapped Shopify to exclusively provide services for both OCS online and brick-and-mortar stores. RegWatch caught up with Shopify Vice President and General Manager Lauren Paddleford back in May, and here now is what he had to say about the deal between Shopify and the Ontario government and the historic opportunities of cannabis retail in Canada. For our viewers that don't know about Shopify and what it is that you guys do, please explain that for us.
Yeah, so Shopify is first and foremost a Canadian-based company. We call ourselves Fiercely Canadian, and we're an e-commerce platform. We help power the shopping experiences of over 600,000 online stores in over 175 countries. So you can think of this as we provide all the back-end capability to stores to sell things online. So if you're an average or an avid online shopper, you probably purchased something from a Shopify store recently and you just didn't know.
So there's the actual website part of the e-commerce, so the displaying, so to speak, of the products online, but you also handle the payment processing, which is critical.
Yeah, so in order to sell things online, you've got to have a way to take payments, and so we provide our customers through Shopify Pay and Shopify Payments a whole number of mechanisms to take credit card payments, PayPal, Amazon Pay, Google Wallet, Apple Pay, whatever it happens to be. So yeah, you can build your website and you can take transactions using Shopify's technology.
You had mentioned previously when we were talking before the interview that you were the head of a pretty big unit, so you kind of got 2 hats, so to speak. What is that big unit?
Yeah, so I'm the general manager of Shopify Plus. And so Shopify Plus, you can consider the platform for the larger, more complex customers. So this is where the big volume customers, the high-profile celebrities, the big flash sellers, so the Rebecca Minkoffs, the Kardashians, Red Bull, Budweiser. Shopify Plus is the version of Shopify they use to power their online stores.
Well, I like those names.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have a very strong, very loyal customer base who relies on us every day, and we rely on them every day to basically invent the future of retail. So there's a lot of really exciting companies doing really, really exciting things on our platform, and it makes it fun to come to work every day for sure.
So one of those exciting customers that you have, clients that you have, is now the province of Ontario.
Yes, so it is very exciting. We are very excited about the partnership with what is now OCS, or the Ontario Cannabis Store. It's very historic, obviously. I think this is just a historic time for this particular industry, and given the size and scope of that particular customer and partner, it's a very exciting engagement for us to be involved in for sure.
So why exactly has Shopify entered the cannabis space?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think I'm going to alter it slightly in so much as I'm not sure we've necessarily entered the cannabis space. I think cannabis has entered the retail space. And Shopify built our platform for retailers, and we have hundreds of thousands of retailers around the world, tremendous amounts of experience on what it's like to be a retailer in today's version of commerce. And so as the cannabis limited producers and the government in Canada prepare to become commercial retailers and start selling products to the everyday consumer, their roles become much more like your normal retailer, and that's the space we know and understand really well. And so as this started to get ramped up, we just saw ourselves as the obvious fit, where we could lend our expertise and our platform and capabilities to this brand new set of customers in this brand new industry that has unique challenges for sure, but is also going to be very large consumer retailers very, very soon. So we thought it was a really kind of obvious place for us to go and support.
Most people who do know of Shopify would be considering you as online e-commerce. Does that mean that you're the main thing you're bringing to the table for Ontario is online for cannabis sales, or is this actual at retail?
So it's both. And so Shopify provides online and offline commerce capabilities. So we have point of sale systems and ship and pin readers, as well as all the online store and mobile capability. So in the case of OCS, we're doing both. So all of their the online store for OCS and all of their retail locations will be powered by Shopify's technology. And I think that's true of OCS, but also other, cannabis customers that we work with. So we've been working with some of the limited producers now for a few years in the medical space with their online stores. And as they look at becoming retail locations in various spaces around Canada, they're talking to us about powering that as well. So I think we see ourselves as a commerce platform. I think our customers come to us because we can do both online and offline. And the cannabis space especially, there's a lot of interest in that unified platform, something that can handle both in one place.
Why do you think the OCS chose Shopify?
I think the combination of expertise, experience, and the robustness of our platform gave OCS just a great option as they look to launch what will be a very big retail operation here in Canada. But it's also just the Canadian story, right? Canada is so innovative in this space, in the cannabis space, in technology. And so that ability to create what will be one of the largest cannabis retailers in the world, using one of the largest commerce platforms in the world, both being innovated in Canada, was such a great story to tell as well. So I think it was a combination.
What is the state of affairs going to be with regard to its ranking with, say, like the MCC code, like, with the credit card companies? Because that is a contentious issue. It is illegal everywhere else. So we decide to make it legal, but that still doesn't, does that mean that MasterCard and Visa and the associations are going to grant it an MCC code and they're going to take it out of high risk and it'll all be good? Because there were problems in Uruguay.
No one's quite sure how this will all play itself out because it's so new. In Canada, we have organizations that are allowing medical transactions with cannabis through credit card payments. And so that's a thing that already exists. And so there are people doing online transactions using credit cards in Canada today. And I think when there's a big market that becomes legalized in regions, I think you see the appropriate players come into it. So again, using Canada as a market that already has credit card transactions for medical cannabis, I would suspect that will continue for recreational.
Now, it's interesting, Lauren, as you may know, RegWatch has spent considerable amount of time over the last couple of years covering in depth the vaping issue in both Canada and the US. And one of the things that we've talked about in Canada is how it's been difficult for some of the Canadian retailers to get credit card processing for vaping products. From your experience, do you think that there's been payment processing companies and credit card companies have treated, say, the vaping industry different than it looks like they're going to be treating cannabis?
Yeah, I'm probably not best qualified to answer that, to be totally fair. Our partners in the payment space, they all operate businesses in the way that is most efficient and most beneficial to them. And we try and provide that service to our customers given the rules that they set out. We are not directly in that space ourselves, and so we're just kind of the middle between a processor or a credit card company and the end consumers. We've always been consistent that if you are legally allowed to sell products by the legal restrictions in your particular geographic area, and you have a legal mechanism to take payment, you are allowed to do this on Shopify. And so that has been our stance and continues to be our stance. And there are payment processors that take high-risk items like vapes and things like that. So We have a large customer base that's in that space because there are gateways that allow it to happen, and they are legally allowed to do it.
Lauren, you're speaking at the World Cannabis Conference. What's your message going to be there?
I think our message is twofold. One is that as these companies, the limited producers, the retailers, the governments become retail operations, they have to consider how dynamic the retail industry is right now and what consumers' experience demands are like. You're now going to sell products to a consumer base who is going to have lots of choice and lots of options and has high demand for experience. And so, ensuring that they are well set up and have the appropriate partners and technology and all of that taken care of is going to be critical for the success of this industry. And then second, how amazing it is how much innovation is happening in Canada, and what a great moment for Canada this is to be leading this particular space in so many angles. That there's innovation in production and cultivation, there's innovation in regulation, there's innovation in supply chain, and innovation in technology, and a lot of it's coming out of Canada. And that's a really great moment for Canada on a world stage, and we're excited as a proudly Canadian company to participate in that at all levels.